Hey, what's up, everybody? Happy Friday. What's going down? Who's out there? Who's on with me? It's K Creative here. Kevin Townsend in the house for Bamboo Solutions. Gonna do our weekly newsletter roundup today. So every Friday we send out our newsletter. If you're not on it, you probably should get on it. It's good stuff, especially if you're in the Microsoft SharePoint area of interests and stuff that you like to do for work or play or whatever. So if you're in that space, this is a good newsletter to be on. Get it in your mailbox. I just posted it in chat. Go ahead and grab that. I am also going to post it since we are simultaneously streaming to Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. We'll go ahead and throw that in all those channels as well. Yep. Righto. So, got a bunch of good news today. Just went through the newsletter, preparing for this. There's the link if you're looking to sign up for that newsletter. Go ahead and get on that. Yeah, went through the news. Good stuff in there, man. Again, here we are, 3 weeks now away from Microsoft Ignite. And still really talking a lot about the stuff that came out of Microsoft Ignite. So if you're not caught up on that, didn't follow last week or the week before that, gonna be a bunch of good information in here for you today. So let's get started. Let's take a look. Let me get some screen sharing going on. And turn those tunes down just a hair. I apologize in advance. I got somebody coming over to pick something up. I'm sure the dog's gonna go crazy and attack the door, but yeah, I'll see if I can't mute when that happens. Anyways, Thanks for jumping on again. Here we go. This is the newsletter. If you haven't seen it, this is a MailChimp newsletter. You're probably on 100 of those already as it is. So you do have the ability to subscribe, unsubscribe. You get all the privileges you are supposed to have according to the government around those things, right? You can manage your subscription to that. But what I do is I view them in the browser. So you've got this option when you get it in your email, you'll have this link here, view this email in your browser. When you do that, take you here to the browser window. You can view past sessions or issues. If you're interested in kind of catching up on some of the previous week's news, as well as some of the other newsletters we send out. And you can also subscribe here if you're not already. I'll go ahead and post this in chat today. You can go along with me and view that. Dang, I keep forgetting. I keep posting that in Twitch chat, but I got to put it everywhere. There we go. Spamming the links. All right, let's get started. Here we go. Top news stories. So the newsletter is broken down into 3 sections. Top news stories around the blogosphere and the SharePoint events that are currently coming up. Top news stories is more around the news posts that are put out by media outlets, magazines, blog, like corporate blogs, things like that. Whereas the blogosphere is more around blog posts from people in the community. So MVPs, evangelists, enthusiasts, whatever. Anybody that writes a blog that seems to be full of good information, then we'll kind of capture that and put it in here. So this is the roundup of the last 7 days worth of news. Even though we're still talking about Microsoft Ignite, which is way more than 7 days ago. That's all right. It's good stuff. It's good news. It's probably some of the most exciting news in the SharePoint space for quite a while now. So let's take a look here. All right, first article, Microsoft SharePoint changes future capabilities. All right, this is stuff that came out of Microsoft Ignite. It's a laundry list of things that were announced that everyone's super excited about. All right, so first things first. They kind of go through here and they talk about how Jeff Tepper, the corporate vice president of Office, SharePoint, and OneDrive and Streams at Microsoft, he did the keynote and well, not the keynote, but he did the SharePoint product enhancement section, I think, or something like that. And he's got a Microsoft podcast out there, so there's a link there for that. You might be worth giving it a listen to. Hearing it straight from him. There he is. You get access to that. But what it says is that his SharePoint announcements were kind of broken down into 5 categories. And so the 5 categories were knowledge, intelligent, intranet, content and team collaboration, developer platform, and security and administration. And so as we kind of go through this big laundry list of announcements from Ignite, you're going to kind of see things fall into those categories. So yeah, Ignite SharePoint highlights. Here we go. First announcement, Project Cortex. If you're not familiar with that, we have touched on it a little bit on this stream, but Cortex is going to be amazing. It's like AI and ML and all those really cool technologies embedded in with the Microsoft Graph. And it's going out and searching across your, Outlook, Microsoft Teams, Office applications. I think that's it at the moment, but it's kind of grabbing the organizational terms you've kind of set up in those places, and it's building these dynamic cards. What are they called? Hold on. It's right here. Topic cards. So it's making sense of and combining a bunch of information it's found across your knowledge and your content and building somewhat of a knowledge base around that. And it'll go, oh, I know a lot of stuff because I see that everywhere around this particular term, and it's going to create a topic card. You can hover over that topic card and it's going to give you all kinds of information, like people that it would think are SMEs around that topic because their name is associated with a lot of the instances of that term in your organization. Just crazy stuff like that, right? Like it's, we probably build knowledge bases in SharePoint way more often than we should. Not more than we should, but more than from scratch more than we should, right? There should be a real good templated solution to that, which obviously Bamboo has a product for, but this is going to be a whole different level of dynamic content creation, right? So it's going to go do that stuff, and it's also going to build like this knowledge base site or platform or pages around that content. FedEx is here. Looks like I'm going to get my Surface Pen in the mail today. All right. Yeah, so anyways, really cool stuff. Another announcement was the Fluid framework. And there's my dog. Sorry, guys. Hold up. Hold up. All right, I think he's calmed down now. Yeah, he wants to eat the FedEx guy for sure. Oh man, killer dog, killer cute little French bulldog, right? Anyways, Fluid framework was another big thing announced. If you're not familiar with Fluid framework, this cool thing. He says let's see if we can just read it from his words here. It's the new plumbing for building out collaboration solutions using the graph, the SharePoint framework, and Office add-ins. The aim of it is to provide a common platform for things like multi-person co-authoring and the abstraction of content into applications. So that's a mouthful. Probably doesn't make a whole ton of sense like that. What else does he say? So it'll use AI to translate text, fetch content, suggest edits, perform compliance checks, and more. And it's currently at the preview stage, but it'll be available to developers in a few weeks. There's a whole bunch of good blog posts out there about Fluid framework, so if you haven't had a chance to go do that, you should probably go search that. Not Molly. No, not Molly. Oliver. All right, so the next one that I was super stoked about is the new term store. Have you guys been reading about that? Modern term store coming in on SharePoint Online. So let's see what they say here. It'll provide help with metadata tagging using terms and term sets. One of the cool things that this is going to introduce, not only is it like going to be a new interface for managing your terms and your term sets and your term groups and all that, but it's also going to bring in some analytics around that stuff to show you the usage of those, which is really cool, right? Because you might want to invest some time in terms that aren't seeing much usage if you feel like they should have more usage across the organization. What's he say here? He says in his announcement that the new modern term store experience will offer an enhanced set of analytics and make it easier to manage your company's taxonomy and content types. No delivery time for this capability was described, but it is a top requested item cited by customers. That was another big theme across Jeff Tepper and his announcements, was that they're driving a lot of these new enhancements to SharePoint Online by customer feedback, which is pretty neat. They're listening. Another big announcement was that SharePoint Server 2019 is getting support on the Azure Stack. If you're not familiar with what Azure Stack is, it's a hardware device built by Microsoft's partners that lets organizations run Azure Cloud services in their local server environments. Really cool. Yep, there's a whole bunch of details around that. Let's see here. He took a moment during his Ignite talk to explain a little bit more about what's going on with SharePoint Spaces. I kind of dove into this recently. Have y'all looked at SharePoint Spaces at all? They're really futuristic, almost as futuristic as the Tesla Cybertruck looks. Anyways, there's a link there to a blog post. There, SharePoint Spaces, right there. So I went to read that, and the guy's review of it, he got to check out a little bit about SharePoint Spaces in person at Ignite. And so you got to wear the mixed reality headset, and it's bringing mixed reality into SharePoint. And his blog's pretty good because he kind of says, I don't really see the fit yet. It's kind of like being able to go to a SharePoint site with this mask on your head, right, and be able to view records in some three-dimensional way. And it makes sense for different types of businesses or whatever, maybe scientific or manufacturing or something like that, like CAD drawings in three-dimensional ways. I don't know, but I just find it hard. I have a hard time trying to fit that use case into my world. Let's see here. I got another guest at the door. Man, it's a busy day out there. Home sites, general availability. SharePoint Online home sites described earlier this year as part of Microsoft's SharePoint conference announcements, now at the general availability commercial release stage. It's getting rolled out Office 365 tenants. So these are built on top of communication sites, it says. They're conceived as landing pages for employees to share news and content. Microsoft also had previously indicated that home sites would become the new homepage for the SharePoint mobile app. That was interesting. I didn't realize that, I guess. Let's see here. I need another window. One moment, please. Yeah, so home sites. File and site collection expansions. This was cool. Getting bigger, right? We can really upload some large files now. Buried in announcements were some of the new file and site collection capacity expansions for Office 365 and SharePoint Online users. Microsoft now supports big file uploads up to 100 gig for OneDrive, SharePoint Online, and Teams. Good thing I got that gigabit connection at Verizon. That could take a while. The expansion was done in part to address organizations migrating files to Office 365, according to the podcast. The SharePoint Online site collection limit was expanded too to 2 million collections. Can you imagine? As a consultant, probably teams of consultants managing 2 million site collections. I can't imagine that. You need some other tool. Yeah, I don't want to imagine that. Amen. Anyways, that's up from 500,000 site collections that you could have before. So it does say also, each site collection can store up to 25 terabytes. Oof, man. Labeling and information barrier preview. That was some good information too recently. So they announced a preview of its sensitivity labels feature that adds privacy, external user access, and unmanaged device policies. The labels get applied when creating or updating team or Office 365 group or SharePoint sites. So awesome. Microsoft's previewing the ability to automatically detect and label the sensitive files in SharePoint and OneDrive. How cool is that, right? That's when they got the category up there of intelligent intranet. That's really what this is all about. A thing thinking for us, crawling our content, applying labels and tags and terms for us. Awesome. Definitely going to drive some better adoption. Say that. So Microsoft also announced a private preview of new information barriers compliance controls for SharePoint Online and OneDrive. It's used to keep certain employees from electronically communicating with each other, which might apply in certain legal and financial scenarios like insider trading. The addition of information barriers for SharePoint and OneDrive is apparently new, but it's already commercially available in Teams. Interesting. I'm not familiar. What else? Microsoft also declared that Movier, the acquisition that they went through, it's one of their migration tools now. The migration support is now available for free for organizations moving workloads to Microsoft 365 platforms. Anything else in there? Nah. But really cool that we've got a nice tool there to work alongside the SharePoint migration tool. So here we go. SharePoint migration tool now supports moving SharePoint Server 2010 premises-based workloads to online services such as SharePoint Online, OneDrive, and Teams. The SharePoint Server 2010 support recently reached general availability status, although the tool also supports moving SharePoint Server 2013 workloads. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Just can't win. I was handing a friend a Apple TV today, so he just stopped by to pick it up in the rain. What else? Azure Marketplace that could be used for deploying. All right, release templates. That's right. So now there are templates in the Azure Marketplace to deploy SharePoint Server 2019 and 2016 server farms in the data center. I'm interested to go check these out. I guess it's been a while, but if I recall, the old templates were like high availability. Like the infrastructure was a little bit larger, probably recommended, but larger than I wanted. I couldn't really use them. I had to build my own templates pretty much. So anyways, they're in there. And one of the key things to know here is that the templates created server farms, that these template created server farms use Azure SQL managed instances for storage, which is now recommended best practice for hosting SharePoint in Azure. Yep. There is going to be a new admin center interface for interacting with your SharePoint sites here. It looks like they've got some new panels. that you're going to use there to edit your general settings and activity settings and permission settings and things like that. So you're going to see some new interfaces rolling out there. What other announcements do we have? Hub sites used to organize. They're getting hub permissions. There's actually a hub permission thing now. The new default teal theme is going to be coming. If you didn't know, the SharePoint, the new SharePoint logo, right, is teal. So now the default theming across SharePoint is going to be that color. Let's see, the browser-based Office.com service got the ability to access line of business apps. That's kind of cool. Don't really know what that means, but I'm sure that's pretty useful. Microsoft released the ability to integrate Power Apps with SharePoint document libraries. It also now permits lists to fill the screen. That's super key, right? Like, wasn't that kind of ridiculous? Our new responsive SharePoint modern experience could only use up this part of the screen. So I'm glad to see that. No more white space. Amen. Let's use it. Use those big devices. All right. I think that's good. Let's move on. That was a long time spent on that one post. Let's go check it out. What else we got? Want to boost team collaboration. It takes more than technology. I read through this one, really just kind of outlining that there are some strategies or best practices, right, for incentivizing and getting better team collaboration. And he calls them out as creating a supportive collaboration environment, eliminating collaboration barriers, avoiding micromanagement, reward teams. And then he says, there is another part of that, though, that really helps drive good team collaboration, and that's technology best practices. He calls a bunch of them out here, using cloud-based collaboration software, creating separate team collaboration space, using task and project management tools, integrating collab tools with other business apps, leveraging social and gamification features. And then really to just kind of round it all up, he's got a couple sentences here that just kind of say, you need both of those together, right? And it's true, right? But every team is a little bit unique, and I don't know that all of these will apply. One shoe does not fit all, I don't think. Good post there if you're looking for some content around that. Maybe some ideas. Microsoft blames networking build for the 365 outage. So there was a big outage yesterday. You didn't know? Was it yesterday or day before yesterday? 19th, I think. Yeah. So it's been a couple days now, 3 days. No, 2 days. What's today? Here we are again. What year is it? So yeah, they revealed that there were some networking things they were changing around, and it really impacted the 365 services. So a lot of the intermittent connectivity to Microsoft 365 services was impacted. And it appears here, when was this? This was later that day. They announced signs of recovery after reverting some of the changes they made. So yeah, it was a big deal. I think it was mainly, if I'm not mistaken, Australia and was it some of the US that was impacted? But mainly Australia where the big impact was. There is a link here that kind of handy. I am not an admin of the tenant for my organization, so I can't actually use this, but if you are, there is an Office status page you can go view. Here it's just going to tell me that I got to go to my Microsoft 365 Service Health page, which I don't have access to. But quick access there if you're looking for kind of a, oh, there is an outage. Oh, got it. Yeah, use that. What else? Office 365 admins are being targeted in a phishing campaign. This was interesting. So hackers are getting into admin accounts in Office 365, and the reason is, and this article does a really good job of kind of calling that out, is that there are just so many enterprises on the Office 365 platform, therefore it's a great target, right? Lots of great proprietary information in there, potentially, sensitive information surrounding customers and things like that, including government agencies, etc., federal, civilian, etc. Anyways, that makes it a great target. So anyways, it seems as though they're attacking admin accounts. They're trying to get in as those, and then they're creating these sort of new user accounts to then push out their campaign, right? And so it says the scam emails aren't entirely convincing. Most admins are kind of likely to spot those inconsistencies. Here he kind of talks about why Office 365 is such a great target. There was a part in here that I was especially interested in, though. Where to go? Enterprises should be aware of such attacks and considering. Yeah, all right. Nope, that's pretty much it. Just kind of calling out the fact that these phishing campaigns are really targeting Office 365, and if you're an admin of one, consider yourself especially a target. And use the new Security and Compliance Center. It's amazing. You can set up all kinds of alerts on there for conditions that you think are kind of worthy of a notification. Set them up. Get notified. Hook yourself up with those kinds of things. Next, Chrome, Safari, Edge, Office 365 hacked during Chinese contest. This was crazy. So, I think this is in China, right? It's a Chinese hacking community gathered in the Sichuan city of Chengdu to battle for the Tianfu Cup, the TFC, right? China's answer to another big competition, if you will. So anyways, 2-day event, I think. In the first day, so there's $1 million pot to this thing, right? So they'll award hacker groups money in return for successfully, I guess, hacking something. And so it's like the big deal over there, really big deal, and they're really good at it, right? So last year, China banned its hackers from participating in international conferences for fear of disclosing too many insider tricks, right? Of course they would. But China, unsurprisingly, has been a dominant player in such contests, but now those skills are being kept at home. So with TFC 2019 underway, they say tweets shared by the organizers claimed that successes against Edge, Chrome, Office 365 within 16 seconds, Safari, Adobe PDF Reader, VMware, D-Link, right? Those are a bunch of the big names of software we're using out there in the world, and they were just getting torn up day one. Day two had some more interesting information. What was it? Day 2 of TFC 2019. VMware reportedly hacked in Windows Server and the iPhone 11 still to come. But yeah, that I didn't see any details around Office 365 other than the fact. Wait, was it a link? Let me see. Where'd it go? Here it is. Yeah, this is a link to a Twitter post. So 360 Vulkan controlled Office 365 within 16 seconds just now. Let's wait for the verification result. In the meanwhile, attempts on Adobe are ongoing. Crazy, right? 16 seconds. I mean, obviously he came prepared, she, but still. Ain't much to it if it's only taking 16 seconds. Microsoft buckles under EU pressure, changes cloud contracts to reflect data controller role. I'm not going to go too much into detail there, but it is GDPR related. And it has to do with the Dutch. There's a good paragraph right here at the end that kind of sums up a bunch of this. Let's see. Here we go. So before and after GDPR became law in the EU, Microsoft took steps to ensure that they protect the privacy of all those who use their products and services. So the issue here is that Windows 10 and Office 365 send telemetry data back to home base in the US, right? And there has been no consent by the user to allow Microsoft to do that. It just does it. So that's a problem. And so they apparently were changing some things around. What was it? The Dutch something. What's the term for them? Dutch Ministry of Justice. Yeah, that's what it was. They were working with Microsoft to try and get some resolution, et cetera, et cetera. So, yeah, if you're interested in that privacy conversation there you go. Good post on that. 4 ways to safeguard your business with Office 365 in 2020. What do we got here? So support for old. Okay, so this guy was kind of talking about the benefits of cloud-based subscription services as opposed to the old perpetual licensing model and things like that. And so he's got a few points here about, the support for older systems is phasing out. It's all about security and why Office 365 specifically gives you a bunch of things to satisfy those needs. Collaboration and efficiency, cost savings, etc. Good post there if you're trying to make that argument with someone about moving to the cloud or one of these offerings for services. Probably give you some tools for your belt. Microsoft CEO calls for strong national data policy. Oh yeah, I tried to click on this one earlier too. Let me know if you guys have the same experience, but when I click on that link, I only get the first 2 paragraphs because the rest of it's behind a paywall. I want to make sure we don't include those if that's the case for everyone, or if it's just sort of a random pick there. So let's move on to Around the Blogosphere. We're already at 30 past the hour, so we're going to speed this up just a hair. SharePoint Framework State of the Union. This was probably the best post, in my opinion. If you're in the SharePoint space and you're working around development in SharePoint, this is good stuff. This is from Andrew Connell. If you don't know who he is, he's the man. And he has one of the best courses online for learning SharePoint Framework. So if you're into that thing, you're trying to get in your developer groove, and you're trying to learn how to use the SharePoint Framework, which is sort of the future development methodology of SharePoint and other Office products, actually, which we're going to see here. Yeah, check that out. Voitanos, I think, if you're interested. Oh, there it was. There was a link on his page right here. Voitanos.com, I believe, or IO. Oh, he's got a page here talking about it. Anyways, so state of the SharePoint Framework. He does this every so often. I can't remember the last time he did it, but I feel like this is not the first one. And so he talks about a bunch of the things that came out of Microsoft Ignite's announcements, or even some of those breakout sessions to talk about this. And so here's some good numbers, right? SharePoint Framework growth usage since last year, up 236%. That's nuts, right? 11 major SPFX updates since GA. What else? So late 2017, there was only one thing in the SharePoint Framework, and that was web parts. So here's a look at all of the things that have been added in the last 2 years. That's a lot of things. So SharePoint Framework is taken off. It's the way. It's the way ahead, right? And so over the last years, they've included things like dialogue framework, extensions, dynamic data, 2019 support, library components, just a whole bunch of stuff. You can check that out. The Microsoft 365 platform, talking about where these, so big picture wise, it's called SharePoint Framework, but if you notice here in the Microsoft 365 platform picture diagram, that it's talking about other apps than SharePoint. So it is going to go through a rename. It's been pretty much verified at this point. There's just not a name, as far as I know, been announced. That SharePoint Framework will be renamed because it's going to go into things like Outlook and Teams and other places, I'm assuming, in the future. So anyways, this cool diagram shows you how those SharePoint Framework pieces fit into each of these sort of environments or enclaves. So SharePoint, you get web parts, right? These little highlighted blue areas. In Teams, you can actually use a SharePoint Framework solution to be a tab in a team. For Outlook, it looks like you can do add-ins. For Word and Office products, you can do add-ins with SharePoint Framework. And then there's that developer tooling. SPFX hosted scenarios, okay, SharePoint Framework architecture, a bunch of details here coming soon in SPFX 1.10. The road ahead says extensions, pre-allocated placeholders. SPFX for Teams is going to get personal app support and support for mobile apps. List notification API moved to GA, that's cool. Developer preview, no extension query modification. That's interesting. I read a little bit about that. That's query modification in SharePoint Framework is going to be the ability to intercept the query before it actually goes off to SharePoint for search, and then do something with it. So maybe you want to translate it to another language. That search term that the user submitted, maybe you want to translate it to a different language and then submit it, or something like that, or multiple languages. So that's cool. Got some GA features here, pre-allocated application customizer placeholders. You got SharePoint Framework for Teams, personal tab support. Yep. Mobile app, we talked about that. What else? What's new with SPFX? In the session, let's see down the road things that we're working on. Some things were discussed in depth, others in passing. You got native support for Fluid Framework, SPFX support, and Store App Source. Yep, bunch of details there. Always a good post, always very thorough from Andrew, right? So check that out if you're really in that space and knee deep in development. Let's go back up here. I'm not going to touch on all these because we're a little bit long today on the stream, so I'm just going to skip through them. 2 ways to create and display unique ID fields in SharePoint. It's always kind of a hot topic, right? It may not be something useful for advanced SharePoint consultants, but for those that are kind of beginning in SharePoint or new to it or just power users, etc., this always comes up, right? Like using unique IDs. That was a good post by SharePoint Maven. Got a couple of posts from him today around the blogosphere. Option 1's just using the ID field he's called out here. He's got some pros and cons for that. And then option 2, he's got the document ID feature so that you can use those unique IDs. And he's got some pros and cons against that as well. So check that out if you're looking for unique ID solutions. Why it's important to keep version in sync when using the library component. Show the progress of your PnP provisioning process with SharePoint Application Customizer and SignalR. Super developer-centric post here, but a neat way to be able to show progress of a process using SignalR. Super technical. So check that out if you like that. Show the progress. Yep. Microsoft Ignite the Tour, guide to SharePoint, OneDrive, Yammer, and Stream sessions. I didn't know they did a tour, honestly. So yeah, they hit the road. So they have their official Ignite tour. I guess I've heard about this for other events. I didn't know Ignite had a tour, or maybe I knew it was Ignite. I don't know. Anyways, they're hitting the road. They're coming to a city near you. So where are they coming to? Here we go. 2020. Oof. That's gonna be a minute. So Washington D.C. is where we're at. February 6th through the 7th in 2020. I said that's going to be a minute. 2020 is like right around the corner. What am I talking about? What else? We got Chicago for US dates anyways. We got Chicago down there in April. Wow, not many in the US, huh? I guess they assume you just would have been there at the event. All right. So anyways, the road show. It's PowerShell for SharePoint site designs and site scripts. This is going to become a more common piece of functionality, I think, for us here coming up soon, for all these customers we're supporting. So SharePoint site designs and site scripts allow you to provision sites and apply your own configurations at that time. So you can drive consistency for sites being created in SharePoint Online. That's all currently done by PowerShell. He's got some examples here. So this is going to be super useful, I think. Megan, if we're not familiar with that already, we got to be. Why you need to be careful with the default document library on a SharePoint site? Yeah, we read this one last week, actually. And it's because of all of the various Office 365 apps and solutions out there. They all use the default document library in that SharePoint site as the storage location for their attachments. And it was like right up front with customers. Usually they're like, whoa, where'd that come from? Why is that folder in my document library? I was trying to keep this nice and clean, and voila. Now we got to create a second document library so that we can have that one nice and organized, and the regular document library is just for Office 365 to do whatever it wants with. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with that. I don't know if they're going to make some configuration around that to where we can decide where to put all those various app attachments. I don't know. We'll see. All aboard the Power Platform, the IntraZone podcast. Good podcast there. If you haven't heard it, do indeed check that out. And then 4 ways SharePoint innovations can help to improve enterprise collaboration. Let's see. What do we got here? European SharePoint 365 and Azure Conference. SharePoint new features for enterprise collaboration. Below, we list the most important innovations that help SharePoint to transform employee collaboration. What do they say? Erasing physical boundaries, streamlining collaboration and content, modern lists and libraries, making collaboration smart. We got automated transcription and face recognition in Teams meetings, content personalization, intelligent search, chatbots, improving data security and integrity, limitations. Okay. There you go. 4 ways. 4 ways SharePoint innovations can help. If you didn't already know that. Most people watching this stream probably already know the 4 ways, plus 100 other ones. All right, SharePoint events, and then we're done. So lots of SharePoint Saturdays coming up. Lisbon, Toronto, Bangalore, Munich, Oslo, Charlotte. Charlotte coming up there, December 14th. What else? Istanbul. And that's it. That's SharePoint Saturdays for the rest of the year. At least I think as far as they're declared on the spsevents.org website. I think it's a .org. And then we got our European SharePoint Conference coming up in Prague, December 2nd through the 5th. SharePoint Fest in Chicago, December 9th through the 13th. What else? San Francisco SP TechCon will be there, so if you guys are in that area or are flying to SP TechCon, come see Rob. Rob will be in the booth section. He'll have a booth. Go shake his hand, say hey. And when is that? February 18th through the 21st. And then we got SharePoint Fest in DC and in Seattle in April and August. So a bunch of stuff coming up there. Quite a bit of stuff. Go check that stuff out. All right. I feel like I've been talking way too much. It's time to go actually get some work done. Miss Hickey, thanks for jumping on. Thanks for all you're doing. Appreciate it. And get some food. That's right. It is food time, isn't it? Oh, yeah. All right. Friday. I'm out. Thank you guys so much for jumping on and talking. And we will catch you all Wednesday for the next stream. We're going to be doing... I don't think we're going to... Webinar prep. Let me see. What is next Wednesday? Actually, I don't know if we'll stream next Wednesday, will we? TBD. TBD. We'll see. Might just be a nice, relaxing hangout. Yeah, and then Friday, I probably won't stream at all next week on the 29th. I'll be too comatose with the turkey. So yeah. Maybe we'll hang out on Wednesday for half an hour and just do something fun. So I'll see y'all then. Y'all have a great weekend, and catch you next Wednesday. Peace out.